Benvenuto! Welcome to Cherry Hill Home Cooking. My name is Mark. Today we're going to make Italian wedding soup, which actually has nothing to do with Italian weddings. I don't think I've ever been to an Italian wedding where they served Italian wedding soup. It really just means the broth and the meat are married together. So nothing to do with a particular Italian wedding. Now, I thought I'd do one more kind of soupy comfort food type recipe, depending upon when you're watching this. Today is, what, February 17th? 17th, February 17th, yeah. So, you know, up in our area, we're just about on the end of winter, and I thought it'd be nice to have some soup frozen for the next couple of weeks. Now, forgive us, we've been away for a couple of weeks. We had a dear friend that passed away. She lives in Florida, and we went to the services to spend time with her family and her kids. Of course, we both came back from sunny Florida with a cold. Today's probably, and we're going on well over a week, today's probably the best I have felt in over a week. Poor Wade had the same cold, plus he had some back pain, so he had to deal with the back pain and the cold. Now, the reason I even mention that is that, as some of you might know, for Christmas, we were in New York City for Thanksgiving. So for Christmas, I did a full Thanksgiving dinner, and I made a huge batch of turkey soup. And then a few weeks before we left, I made a batch of chicken soup, which I think we're going to do before the end of the winter, because that chicken soup came out really good. I did a little bit different than I usually do it. But anyway, again, the point I'm even saying that is that were we ever happy that we had some turkey soup and chicken soup in the freezer? Because I know I ate it almost exclusively for a week and weighed several times and even brought it to work for lunch. So anyway, it's always good to have some soup in the freezer. All right, so Italian wedding soup. Now this looks like a lot, guys, because I got the big cooktop out and I got the big gigantic stock pot because I'm going to double this recipe. The written directions for the recipe is going to be for a single batch. I'm going to double it so that we have some in the freezer for the next couple weeks. All right, so now, Italian wedding soup, or some people might call it meatball soup, starts out with meatballs. All right, so here I have what some people call meatball mix. Some might call it meatloaf mix. Okay, so what that is equal parts beef, pork, ground pork, and ground veal. Now, this is my grandmother's recipe, so that's how she always made it, so that's how I'm going to make it. If you don't want to use the pork, you can use all beef. I've seen some recipes that use just all veal for this, ground veal, but if you don't want to use a red meat, then you could use ground chicken. It'll come out delicious. All right, now, there's a couple different things. There's two different parts to this recipe. There's the meatballs, and then there's, of course, our stock and our veggies. So we're going to go over the meatballs in a little bit. So let's just concentrate on the rest of our ingredients so we can get everything away and start cooking. All right, so you're going to need some carrots, celery, and onion. In almost every kind of soup recipe based on Italian cooking, that's like the Holy Trinity. All right. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is you're going to need some escarole. Okay, so that's escarole. You're going to need a couple heads of escarole. Now, escarole is one of those leafy green vegetables that you have to, peel all the leaves off and rinse them off really good because there could be dirt down in there. All right, so then after you've done that, you're just going to take it and chop them up like little loose julienne. All right, and I've got the rest of it all done. We'll put that in our bowl. Okay, now, so that's escarole. You can use almost any green leafy green that you like. My grandmother always used escarole. You could use spinach, kale, endive, really almost any type of leafy green veggie you like. All right, so I just wanted to go over. Now you'll see on my carrots and celery, I like them to be in little pieces. All right, we've done veggies many times, but anyway, we'll just kind of go over. That's how I do them. You can really cut them in any way you want. Ooh, my thumb cramped. Ooh. We haven't had bananas in a while, so excuse me, I picked up some bananas today. I think we're low on potassium. But anyway, so I just, cut it lengthwise, cut it in half, and then just thinly slice them. All right, so I like, and the size I'm going to make our meatballs, I like to kind of be able to get a piece of vegetable, your carrot, your celery, onion, and a meatball on one spoon. For the purpose of this recipe, you're going to use about a half a cup of each one of those. I've got a cup because we're doubling this. I don't need this little carrot. I'll eat him later. And then celery, depending on how big your stock is, I usually just cut it in half like that and then thinly slice it. So again, you're going to get, hopefully, a little piece of all your veggies and your meatball on one spoon. All right, so, and of course, we're going to have a detailed list in the description of how much you need. All right, so as far as the onion, I've got a large white onion. I cut it in half. I left the root end on. All right, you've probably all have done this. Then I'm just going to cut down, not quite through the root end. If you're really skilled, you could cut that in half, but I think this is going to give me the size I want. So I'm just about dicing it, maybe a little bit smaller than a dice. That is definitely a cup. All right, we'll put him over there, and we might as well scrape you guys in there, at least not whatnot. Okay, now we can set that aside for now. All right, we'll quickly go over the rest of the ingredients. So for the meatballs, we're gonna need some breadcrumbs. Now, of course, my grandmother would always use fresh parsley. It's something on my shoulder. Cutting parsley, chopping parsley is one of my pet peeves. I hate doing it. This fresh dried parsley is really, really good. So the recipe would be, for one batch, would be 1/4 cup chopped fresh parsley. That's what I'm going to put in the recipe. But if you want to use this freeze-dried parsley, I usually do about 2 teaspoons for a pound of meat. All right, we're going to need some garlic. We need garlic for our meatballs and for our stock. But I'm gonna use my handy little chopper here. All right. Because you want a fresh, so in the recipe, it's going to be about 1/4 cup of chopped, very finely chopped onion and garlic. I'm going to do it in this. You can chop it yourself, finely chop it. Don't have to finely chop it. Some people don't like to get a big chunk of garlic when they bite down. It wouldn't bother me in the least. All right, of course, we need to, really, on the spices, we need some salt and pepper. We need a couple lightly beaten eggs. Now, this, guys, is some really good Romano cheese. Now, smells like heaven to me. Now, other than a cup of this was $21. I know good Italian cheese is expensive. I think, just maybe because I love it so much, it's one of those things you can splurge on life. Now, you don't have to go out and spend $21 for, half a pound, but use the best you can. Go over to the cheese section in the supermarket and, pick out one of those fresh ones that has been, relatively freshly graded. It doesn't have to be, aged for 100 years. But that stuff that's next to the tomato sauce in the supermarket, if you don't have to use that, don't use it, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. All right, and then we're gonna need some chicken stock, okay? Now, if you've got your homemade chicken stock and you go to our, we have a video on that, you can make it. I haven't made any, and I need to make another stock. But, as I've told you before, I used this bone broth from Collagen Inn a few months ago. I actually like it a lot. So, we're gonna need, for one recipe, for one batch, we're gonna need 4 cups. For 2, we're gonna need 8 cups. I can't remember if I said salt and pepper. And then we need some good quality extra virgin olive oil. Now, the reason I'm going on, and I wanted to go over all the ingredients so closely, is we're gonna put some pasta in this, right? You could basically use any pasta. I like a small, this is what, Tatali, I think it's pronounced. All right, and it's just a little round little pieces of pasta. Okay, now, you're not gonna use a lot of this. For one batch, you need 1 cup. So 1 cup to 8 cups of pasta or stock, plus your meatballs, isn't gonna add a lot of pasta to it. Now, my grandmother used to, she never put it in the soup. She always made her stock and her meatballs, and then she boiled the pasta later, and you know, at the table, you put the two together. The reason you do that is because, of course, the pasta will become overcooked. If you put your pasta in, you know, by the time you get it served and everything, you're gonna have, you know, overcooked pasta. Now, my grandmother was 100% Italian. Overcooked pasta was offensive. So, but with that being said, if I was just making one batch and we were serving this for dinner and it was all gonna be gone, I would put the pasta in as we cooked it. But in this case, I'm gonna freeze a lot of it. So, if I freeze it and then, you know, we keep reheating it and so on and so forth, the pasta would get really overdone. So, I'm gonna make a cup of pasta before we serve the soup, and I'm gonna put the pasta in there a little bit, and that's how we'll eat it. But also, we're trying to cut down, especially Wade is trying to cut down on his carbs. And unfortunately, my favorite thing in the world is carbs. I'm eating pasta. But, so this way over the next couple of weeks, if he takes it for lunch, there's not gonna be any pasta in it, so that'll help us cut down a little bit on the carbs. All right. I think I've talked enough for this segment. It's going to end up taking half of it because the rest of it's going to go right away. So we're going to clean up a bit and we'll be back and finish up. Recording. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, I know with all that stuff here we had on the counter, when this behemoth in the way, it looked like there was a lot of ingredients. There really isn't that many, but all right. So first thing I'm going to start with is I've got my, I've got about a quarter of a white onion in there, so half of the other half, and then I cut it in half, all right? And we got our 4 cloves of garlic in there, which smell delicious. That's something I really haven't been able to smell in 4, 5, 6 days. That smells really good. So I'm going to give that a pretty good pulse. And you can, of course, chop that. If you don't have one of these little devices, go buy one for yourself. They're not expensive. And, God, I use this all the time. All right, so I'm going to use some of this as we start to saute our veggies, and I'm going to put some in my meatballs. All right, so I've got our pot heated up. It's warm. I know it's a little hard to see in here, but you want a good couple tablespoons of olive oil. And we got all of our chopped veggies, and I'm gonna get them in the pan. Now, we're not looking really to brown these, so you can see they're starting to sizzle right away. But we're gonna saute those. I'm on just slightly about medium high right now. We want them just to, I think, sweat. We want to sweat them, right? They're going to start to soften up a little bit. But we don't necessarily need to get any color on there. I'm going to do a little salt and pepper. We'll salt at least right now just to get those starting. The salt will bring out a little moisture. So we're going to let those go. I'm going to turn it up slightly. We're going to let those, actually, yeah, I'm going to put, right before I'm done, I don't want to burn our garlic. We'll put a good couple tablespoons of that in there. All right. I'll break my cabinet. Take that apart. That goes right in the dishwasher. This, if it's dirty, you just wipe it down a little bit with a cloth. We'll put that over there. I think my sister-in-law gave that to me. One of the best gifts I ever got in my life. And that was a long, long time ago. So, again, you just want to keep an eye on them. But we're going to let those just kind of soften up a little bit as we move on to making our meatballs. All right, I'm going to need, this. So we'll open them. All right, so in my bowl, I have our cheese. So, as I said, one of the main ingredients is the meatballs is the Italian cheese, or pecorino romano. You could use Parmesan too, depending upon which one you like better. I like both of them. But anyway, so we've got our salt, pepper, cheese, breadcrumbs, and let's put a couple teaspoons of that in there. And we've got our beaten eggs. So I'm using two beaten eggs for this batch because it's double. 1 second. Just wanted to get a little milk in case. I don't. Oh, you know what? We may not have, but you know, I think we did because I had them up on the counter. But anyway, I'm using just seasoned. I got regular, just store-bought seasoned breadcrumbs. That is one little different thing my grandmother would have done, because my grandmother would have used Italian bread, you know, still Italian bread ground up with a little bit of milk. But she made. That's what I remember her using. But
about your breadcrumbs?
Oh yeah, of course, my breadcrumbs. Which, God, we've used a lot of breadcrumbs lately, and I haven't made a batch yet. But yeah, no, of course my breadcrumbs would even be better. Way to put a link up there if you want to make some fresh breadcrumbs or your own homemade. Of course, it's always nice to do it because then you know exactly what's in it. All right, so my hand is clean, and we're going to go in and we're going to mix our meatballs. And like I said, I did get a little milk just in case our eggs aren't enough to give us enough moisture. Which I think we need a little more, so I'm gonna just put a little drop in there. There we go. Now, when I know we've made meatballs. I know we have I think we have an episode for Sunday gravy and meatballs. Normally, when I make meatballs, I like to, for this I wouldn't, but if I was doing meatballs, which this is actually really kind of close to the meatball mix I make, I always like to, after I mix it together, put it in the refrigerator and let it sit overnight. And let everything kind of get all mixed up together. All right, let me wash my hand. Still got a bit of a cough. All right, now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to put the rest of our garlic and onion in our veggies. And give it a toss. Now those have been cooking for a good 5-10 minutes, just about 10, and that is good. Now, you might be asking, oh, what about your escarole? That's going to go in almost at the last. All right, let's get our stock in. And of course that will continue to soften our... Now you notice we haven't put a lot of salt in there. Of course there is some salt from the from the stock that I'm not quite sure how much they put in it. I know, let's see, what did they say? Sodium, 500 milligrams. I don't know what that is, but anyway. So I'm not going to add any additional salt until we're just about done, because we want to make sure it doesn't have too much salt. Now, I was afraid I could have used a small, well, when we put the meatballs in there, this is going to start to come up. I could have used a smaller pot, would have been easier to see, but I didn't want to be doing it and then not have enough space. So we're going to just give that a stir. And we're gonna let it come to a boil. All right, so now the next step is easy. Let me put the milk away. Now, as I said, you can make your meatballs as big as small as you want. Of course, the smaller you make them, the more everyone will get a little piece of meat. I'm going to turn that on, or a little piece of your meatballs. The bigger you make, the less you're going to get in it. So, you got a couple different ways to do it. I like to use my little handy dandy 1/4 teaspoon or whatever it is scoop. All right, and then you can take it. You want to roll it up nice. Look at that, a little tiny meatball. All right, or guys, you can just go in willy-nilly, however much you're going to get in each little meatball, and make a little meatball. Let's see, what do you think? They're not bad. One is a little bit smaller. All right, so we're going to continue to do that with each one. But in the meantime, our stock's going to be boiling, or start to boil. And I'm going to stand here all by myself and roll these. Unless you'd like to stick around and watch, but no, we'll see in a bit. Alrighty, our meatballs are all perfectly rolled. All right, our stock is simmering, or I should say our chicken broth and our veggies. Our veggies have pretty much softened up. They're going to be, they'll have a little bit of al dente when we're eating. But anyway, so now the next thing to do is just add our meatballs. Now, some people bake them. My grandmother never did. So I do it the way she did it. Now, would I delicately put these in if we weren't filming? Probably not. I'd kind of take the chance of burning myself and just kind of throwing them all in there. But this pot is tall. Now, as far as cooking, this is not a soup, especially if you're using a very well flavored broth, your own homemade, or one that you know how it tastes. It's not one of those soups that needs hours and hours to cook to be delicious. Because of course, a lot of the deliciousness is going to come from these delicious meatballs. So I'm going to say you're going to let this, once you get all your meatballs in, let it come to a boil, and then turn it down to a high simmer, which is, just bubbles gently coming to the surface. And you probably want to let that cook for a good, I'm going to say 20, 30 minutes. Of course, the goal is to just get your meatballs cooked through. All right, well, we just got a couple more to go, so I'll keep you with us. Now, after our meatballs are cooked, then you would, if you were going to add your noodles, once the meatballs are cooked, you would add your noodles and keep it boiling for, probably another 10 minutes, so your noodles are al dente. And then, or maybe slightly less than al dente, and then you would throw your escarole in. So we're going to let these cook, and then we're going to put our escarole in. In the meantime, I'm going to make some pasta, and then we're going to have dinner. See you in a little while. Well, we'll see you in a bit when I put in the escarole. All right, guys, we have been gently simmering for about 20 minutes. I took one of our meatballs out, cut it in half. It's cooked all the way through. I already tasted it, but we'll give it another little taste. I want to taste. Oh, aged olive pepper. I want to taste our stock. Good.
That's good.
See if we need any. That's actually good. I'm going to add a little bit more salt. And a little bit more pepper. And then people can add, or we can add some, at the table if we so desire. Okay, so our next now. If I was going to do the pasta, okay, I would take my cup of pasta and I would put it in now. And I'd let that cook 5, 6, 7 minutes. Stir it around, give it a good stir, let it cook at this high simmer for 5, 6, 7 minutes. And then add your escarole. This is going to take no time at all to cook. And that's going to all wilt down. And I would say that's probably going to take a good 3, 4 minutes. And by that time, your pasta should be done perfectly. At least for your first taste of it. And if you eat it all then, like I said, I'm going to freeze this. And I'm going to show you the way my grandmother would have served it. All right, so give that a stir around. And like I said, in no time, that's going to cook down. All right, so the next time I see you, we'll be serving it up, and then we'll be having our dinner. See you in a little bit. All right, so this is how my grandmother would have served this. We've got our soup bowl, a couple nice spoonfuls of the pasta. And then we got our soup. Give it a sprinkle of some of your Romano Pecorino. And, we'll give that for a wait. We'll get a little bit more. And there you have what I consider an absolutely delicious soup. All right, Wade's going to take some pictures and we'll be back to eat dinner. See you in a bit. Once again, we're here having dinner. All right, let's dig in. Oops, look at that already. dropped out of my nose.
Making a mess already.
This always brings back such fond memories for me. A lot of times my grandmother would make this on a Saturday if I was spending the weekend there.
Delicious. Yep.
Try the meatballs?
I did.
Again, this has nothing to do with wedding. The meatball's good, huh?
Excellent. Wow, very good.
We got a little Texas garlic toast. Also, of course, you want to leave a little bit more cheese on the table. Anybody wants to add some? Of course, I do. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed making dinner with us tonight. I hope that you try it, and then it becomes a family favorite.
You should.
It really is easy. It looks like there's a lot of steps to it. The hardest part is making the meatballs and rolling them. Other than that, it's not difficult. It's not one of those soups that has to cook for, 900 hours. To soften everything up. But anyway, right, that's how I get salmon and enjoy nice soup.
Gotta make this. Please like and subscribe. And check out cherryhillhomecooking.com. See you in the next video.
Ciao.
Bye. What was all that about?
Yummy.